You're listening to Boggy Talk, Faith Conversations in the Mud, a resource of Church on Bayshore.
Hey, welcome to Boggy Talk. Thankful you have tuned in, and I'm thankful that you're here with me, James.
You know, I'm impressed because I could tell you were like mid-sentence, like, I don't know what I'm saying, but you kept rolling.
I hesitated.
You pulled it off.
You've heard me well enough to know that I was like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I
get tongue-tied.
It's June.
It is June.
Wow.
Goodness. When did that happen?
Yesterday. June 1st was yesterday.
That's right.
No, Saturday.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Saturday was my dad's birthday. Yes.
Oh, wow. You knew that.
Yeah, I did know that because it was his birthday. So, yeah, you doing all right in this hot summer?
Is that why y'all call him June, baby?
My dad would go, what? What?
It got hot.
Like all of a sudden, we had this
like
nice, long, pleasant spring, and then all of a sudden, boom, the devil just all over Florida.
All right, Georgia boy.
That's right.
Georgia boy.
The devil just unleashing that heat.
Was it beating his wife? Isn't that when it rains?
When it's raining and it's sunny, yes. I remember hearing that as my grandma. My grandma said that, and I was like, what? And I remember repeating that.
What does that even mean?
I have no idea. Like, that was just some old, really dated, not progressive Southern thing that people said.
Wow.
And it's raining. It's raining and the sun is shining. The devil is beating it. That's terrible.
Where do they get the idea the devil's married?
Right? Or that he can control the way. I don't know. That's just crazy.
That is crazy. That's Speaking of crazy.
Yeah.
How are you, Justin?
Crazy. Yeah. Doing okay, though. I think, rolling with summer. Summer's always like, oh, man, that's a lot of time together as a big family. But, but also
our church
fun.
Staff is together less.
Yes,
really,
it is because everybody's in and out. There's vacations, there's camp, there's Infuge with our middle schoolers.
New York City.
There's the New York trip happening in June.
I want to get some salsa in New York City this year.
New York City?
Yeah.
Man, it's not paste pecani sauce.
That's right, man.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, doing all right.
That was like, commercials were so much better when we were kids.
Yeah, like Grey Poupon. I mean, people still like, pardon me,
I was
do you
a little
have
young for that?
No, you weren't.
Yes,
no,
was.
You weren't.
That was like,
Grey
Poupon was like
Poupon?
the 80s.
I don't know. Maybe. But
I do remember the lingering commercials.
You just think about that and you think of paste pecani. Those are like the catch lines. Everybody said them.
There's probably other good ones.
I'm sure there's plenty.
Did they still have that Charmin Bear thing?
No, the Charmin Bear is kind of a, like, he wasn't animated.
He canceled?
Yeah, probably. No, like the Charmin Bear commercials now are like really funny because they're like, they're all about like bears wiping their butts. It's just, it's kind of, they're cartoony and our family laughs
The
at them.
Pepto-Bismol ones are probably like the funny. Like, I can't believe that's a commercial.
Oh,
right?
I know, right?
And
you're
just,
and the diarrhea dances and the illustrate. We are way off topic. But by the way, can we just say, I think that's part of it's like, that's like Gen Z marketing. Like, cause it's like a little retro, but a little funny. Like, I don't know. It's just
but also
funny.
Like, should we be saying this?
I know, exactly.
Yeah, that's very Gen Z.
I
do appreciate, and this is a nice segue because I know we have something to talk about, but I just want to bring this up, and I didn't really prep you much, but I was at our student testimony night, like 2 weeks ago, and what was amazing, like good that they were sharing, but also like eye-opening.
Yeah, it was
the number of students who struggled with pornography starting in middle school.
Right. Yeah, it was.
And so I was like, this is amazing that they're so open about this.
Yes.
But also like, hello.
Yes.
These are church Niceville kids.
Right.
So it's beyond that.
Right.
And they're looking at pornography in middle school.
Mm-hmm. And they're openly confessing
this is
like
this is
good.
It was a good, like, but I just was like, hey, we have got to deal with this.
Right. So we're going to figure that out. How we handle that with students, and really like mentor, coach, accountability, but like ultimately like help them see the truth and beauty of the gospel.
They were talking about how much like it harmed their self-image, their view of people.
Yeah, they weren't just saying that's what
they weren't just like, we did a bad thing.
Yeah, it was beyond just, hey, I messed up, or like it was like, no, I really it's harmed me because I recognize it changed the way that I saw myself. It changed the way that I saw girls. It changed the way that I saw other people, and I realized
we're talking gender neutral is probably not the right word for her, but like it's cross generations now.
Yeah,
I mean, genders too. It's
right, absolutely,
boys and girls, men and women.
Yeah, and that is probably a new phenomenon in this generation. Not that it didn't exist previous, but it's more prevalent. Where I think people would say in generations past it's probably predominantly been guys. But now it's both, and because it's everywhere, it's in everything. Even you can come across it now really accidentally in some regards, whereas before, like when you had to seek it out, and so they're just faced with so much. Yeah,
I remember growing up in a home at the time where my stepdad was not a believer, and that was in our home, and I would have to like sneak to find that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, or if I wanted to but for them, it's just literally, it's just instantly accessible
everywhere. And if it's on their phone, and if it's not on their phone or accessible on their phone, their friend is looking at it, like on the bus or or in the classroom or just wherever. I mean, it can happen. So just what do we do about this?
So we are going to lean on the greater faith community to say, how can we address this problem in middle school? And I think part of the tension, is like, well, their parents who their middle schoolers haven't been exposed to it. A, I don't know how true that is.
Right.
B, okay, fine. You don't have to, as a parent, you have every right to not bring your kid to the night when we're tackling this issue.
For sure.
But we're going to deal with it.
Right. Yeah, our approach with that, I mean, not that we've gotten everything right, but we just were like, I want my kids to hear all this from me first and not have to fill in gaps.
I agree.
And so we talked about it. And, one thing I've told our kids too is like, hey, if this ever is like a deal for you, a struggle for you or temptation for you, like I'm telling you now, you can come to me. No consequences. No, like you're not going to be in trouble.
Right.
I'm not going to, we're going to talk about it and I'm going to do whatever it takes to help you. And that might mean some restrictions on the phone or whatever, like additional, there already are, but like just, I want them to be able to confess that to me as their dad. So I would just say, if you're a parent, a middle schooler, and really even fifth grade entering sixth grade, and you're not having these conversations or like it's not on your radar, or if you think not my kid, I just think that's not the world we live in. So
yeah. I mean, it may have seemed unrelated to our topic today, but it really is related because we're talking about kind of Gen Z, Generation Alpha even, and how they perceive the world. And I really, we're a little behind because we pre-record here, but I really wanted us to talk about Harrison Butker, his speech, and really the negative reaction by many to that speech, and kind of why there was a negative reaction and what do we do here? So,
well, rather than rehash the full speech, which you can Google, you can research. I mean, he is a professional NFL player. He's the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. So high profile team, which kind of elevates it a little bit, winning the Super Bowl. Taylor Swift's their number one fan. And
most popular fan.
That's probably a better way to say that. And so just a high profile position. And then he's speaking at a graduation for college. I can't remember the name of the college. Do you remember? I know it's Catholic. It's a Catholic school. He is a devout
Saint something. Probably Mary or Joseph.
Yeah. He's a devout Catholic. And so really what he shared was very conservative values, not really surprising for a Catholic person to be sharing and speaking on at a Catholic
but surprising for a person of his prominence.
Yes, exactly. So, hence the controversy being labeled as hate speech by some. So he's speaking hate because he's speaking about gender roles and traditional gender roles. He does get into some specific things that I would say fall into the Catholic Church's teaching on birth control. And different, various forms of, IVF, and we're not going there today. But so let's just talk about why was this such a big deal?
Yeah, I think because we can't tackle everything here. I think I've said that word twice now. I think that
football,
because we're talking about football. Oh yeah, that's why. There you go. Okay, you found it.
That's my job. That's my job.
Yeah. Why did James say what he said?
Well, I think where he was going is.
Yeah. I'm glad you don't do that every Sunday. But anyway. So you're not like picking the response song based on like clarifying what I said. But anyway,
what he meant to say was,
I think like the family values, specifically the women's role thing.
Yeah, that's probably the
biggest
one. Yeah,
and I just think we have to recognize like we are at a cultural moment where there is a group that is just all in on equality. And I don't mean like equal in value. I mean like they believe men and women should be
the same,
exactly the same.
Yeah.
And as a Christian, we see men and women as different, as unique. We see the roles being different. We do believe. I hate that it's complementarian versus egalitarian.
Right,
I hate that because I'm like, I do believe they're equal. Like, why are you making it sound like I don't believe they're equal? You know what I'm saying? Like, but we do believe God had made men and women to complement each other. Not just women to complement men, but men and women to complement each other.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, go back to the garden. That's where this starts, right? That's the appeal. Even later in the New Testament, that's Paul's appeal, and like in instructions for the church, it goes back to the created order, and like they are both created in the image of God, and they are both equal value, and you see them co-ruling together. And so I think that's where you have to start in this conversation from the Christian perspective, and where we are culturally now is it's a completely ignoring that we are. You can be different and be equal, and what does that mean? And I think where our culture errs is saying that equality means the same, rather than celebrating the goodness of the differences.
Specifically when it comes to gender, right?
Yes, yes,
because
exactly.
Obviously culture, then they would be like, well, sexuality, we're different.
No, that's, and culturally we've elevated sexuality to gender, and we've made sexuality identity. That's a completely different, and that's
maybe it's all related.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that. Yeah, and that's not really
mess.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think this is important when we're talking about the next generation, because this issue is not going away.
Yeah.
And it's coming into the church more and more. And specifically, next week we'll be talking about the Southern Baptist Convention. Like, I do think this is a piece of why the SBC is wrestling with defining the role of pastor. Because I do think again, not all of it, but there is a group that they're motivated by this cultural moment and being on the right side or perceived right side of history. And so I think like we just have to stop here and recognize like it is a different moment in culture when people are so offended by someone saying, hey, maybe part of your plan isn't just your job, but it's finding fulfillment and being a wife and a mother.
Right.
That shouldn't be hate speech.
Right. And I think why is because women have, culturally, like there's the progression of women in the workplace, which is, fine, and that's good. And I think for men, if you put the shoe on the other foot, if you were to go to a group of men, if you were to say, men, it's not just about your work, it's about being a dad and being a husband. He did say that. And it's like people are like, that's fine. Yeah. Why is that fine? And not encouraging women. And I think part of it is because there is legitimacy to the fact that, women have, been relegated to the kitchen and just use colloquialism, and that's not right either. Right. The Christian perspective, that isn't right.
Well, there's an ideal that, and we're talking about the church has set up an ideal. And not everybody hits that ideal. And so people who aren't in that ideal, and Paul talks about that in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and 7 about whatever your life is given you, like be faithful to God in that, whether it's single, whether it's married, whether it's divorced. I would say whether it's with a godly husband, whether it's not with a godly husband, whether it's a godly wife, not godly wife. Anyway, like I'm trying to hit as many pieces. But I think that ideal has been set up. But the counter narrative is not the answer. The meta narrative is the answer. Back and forth of correction is not the answer.
Right.
It's striving to be Jesus, and understanding his design for families
because
is the answer.
Because he didn't say, women, you shouldn't work. Right. He's saying you're missing out if that is that's greatest goal. Yeah. And I mean, the scripture talks about the gift of children, and that is given to childbearing is given to women, and that's a great gift. We should celebrate that. That's equal. And just the woman, if you are elevating your work, I mean, this is not just for a guy, this is for a woman too. If you're elevating that above the care and the nurture of your children, then you are wrong, you know, and why is that controversial? I don't know.
Yeah. No. And so for a non-believer, I think, okay. I mean, obviously I'd love to have a conversation with you about that, but for a Christian, a woman, I've never won't say that a woman can't work outside the home, but also you can't neglect that your children and your husband are your first priority. Just like a man shouldn't have neglected his wife and children are first priority. It should be okay for me to say that.
Right. Absolutely.
And I recognize more and more, like, as a guy, like, I want other ladies to say that, because in this cultural moment, as a white male, like, people don't like hearing me say that. Seriously.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with, like, hey, other people can say that, but it shouldn't be problematic that I say that, right? Now, my rhetoric might be judged. That's fine. But, like, the truth is the truth from Scripture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, what we can do, like, I mean, to say that women should work out, well, we have women who work here at the church, so that would be.
I know, right? I know.
I mean, but I think, and we say this to each other, like, we know that our families are priority over our ministry, over this job.
We've had that conversation with each other. Like,
especially recently, because we're just carrying a lot of extra things. But I think even for the women who work here, I mean, we tell them, I mean, like, hey, like, you're a mom and a wife before you work here. So if something comes up, like, we're going to figure out how to make that priority. Now, I recognize that's not the case, but we as a church, at the very least, should be modeling that.
You're right.
How
that's
we are working.
That's a great point. We were in a meeting recently, and we heard one of our staff members who is a younger mom. She said, like, she appreciates how understanding it has been.
There's still work to do, and that job gets done. But at the same time, like, hey, like, you've got to be there for this.
But I think you brought up a great point. Like, a lot of women don't work for a church, and so, like, they're not a part of an environment that is helping them navigate that, and they have to decide. Hopefully with their husband, like, they have to decide, this job is not my priority. Career is not my priority. Proving myself is not my priority. And they have to realize they're in a cultural moment that is telling them, and I'm just going to be blunt, that's telling them, abort babies because that's your priority.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. And I think...
And making that normal.
Right. And it's like, and not just normal, but celebrated. Like,
so you have to realize that's the cultural moment you're in, and listen to the voice of truth.
Right.
Casting crowns.
And that is the voice of truth. And that is, like, I think it is a very countercultural thing for Christians to do that. And I think men should be thinking those same things too in their jobs, but I think it is acutely much more on women to do that.
Absolutely. As the Christian, you have to realize, like, well, it's easier for men to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
But
either way, like, we aren't sitting here looking at culture and saying, well, but we're saying, what is God calling me and my family to do? As for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord.
And what does that look like for you? And you have to, like, everybody has to answer that question. What does it look like for you to serve the Lord?
Yeah. And so I think like, really we have to recognize this is happening, and we have to be careful about getting in the counter narrative. And I would say, like, I'm going to kind of now go with the other side. Like, I mean, he knew what he was doing, and I'm not saying he should have done it.
Right.
And I do think there are those who want to, like, take moments, and he didn't do this, I'm not saying this, but to, like, dunk on the other side. And that would probably be my greatest, like, critique. And we're coming to the SBC now. Like, I'm fully aware that there is a group that is leaning towards a liberal drift in the SBC. And I have to even confess that I have been more sympathetic to that side because of the venom in which those who were concerned about that were using in their speech towards that side. And I think we have to guard against being culture warriors more than we are people who love God and love people.
Yeah, that's right. I was just, like, having this, when you were talking about the SBC and having been there and kind of, like, knowing, like, already, like, feeling like about how
that's why I was like, you want to go with me, Justin? You're like,
I want you just to, like, go to the microphone and be like, where is Jesus in this, guys? Like that, you know. But the problem is that both sides would say, with me.
Right.
And I think, that's just the problem. And to really to get, it's like, this is a tension to manage. And I think, like, the bringing this back to the SBC, and what we're going to talk about this in a few, coming weeks.
Next 2 weeks,
But I think a big deal is, like, it comes down to my interpretation is the right interpretation, and there's no room for someone to disagree with me. And we have to recognize that may not be the case in all this. So, I mean, we'll get into that more.
We will. We're going to talk. We're going to have some fun with the law amendment. You can Google that now if you want to. But I think the point of today's conversation is just recognizing this shift, in our culture. But I will say, as like a Christian, this is what should change our disposition. If we believe the Bible is right, then why do we feel like we have to be so defensive about it being right? I don't mean like why do we have to be on guard?
Right.
Please, like as the church, but like why do we feel like we have to like prove it? You know what I mean? Like
to justify yourself.
Like if we don't guard this, like God's fat design for human. Like I've always said about like the sexual revolution, LGBTQ plus, like yes, for our children, I think we need to be clear and we need to teach. But like, I'm not worried about us being some society where all of a sudden, like, the majority of people are gay.
Right. That's
because it's not God's design.
Exactly. And then it's like also like you can also stop sinning and still not be close to Jesus.
Right. Yeah. That too as well. Yeah. So, but I mean, I just think like we just need to help people see God's design, not be so angry, about where a lost, confused culture is.
Right. Yeah. And I think for Gen Z and the generations coming, like those of us who are ahead in generation, recognizing this is the world that we're in, this is culture, and like truly helping people understand their identity in Christ. Like if they have Jesus, it really is enough. And people, if you follow Jesus, people are going to hate on you.
Yeah,
people are going to, now it shouldn't be just because you're a jerk. They shouldn't hate on you. Like people are not going to understand. I mean, scripture teaches that. So we have to be so secure and moving more and more and more into that security in Christ that it's okay. And we're like, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to still live like the truth. I'm going to live by what the scriptures teach. I'm going to follow Jesus, and you may ridicule. Okay, whatever.
And maybe shifting gears here just a little bit, or landing the plane, or I don't know.
Either
things. We're taking back off, or I don't know what we're doing.
Time-wise, we got to land the plane.
Yeah, that's accurate. We talked last week, with Mahima and about the persecution of the church where she's from, and about what real persecution is. And I think you even talked about, I'm pretty sure it was on Boggy Talk, you talked about how, they want they welcome the persecution. Not they want the persecution, but they welcome it. They ask us not to pray to stop it. And I think as Christians, we have to recognize like there's a good chance that our culture is moving more and more away from Christianity, and we will be persecuted for standing on an orthodox view of Scripture.
Right.
And we just have to embrace it.
Yeah.
But I just personally think part of our animosity in the fight is we don't want to lose our way of life more than we've been very
secure. We have been very secure in our way of life, and to feel the threat to that. Yeah.
I think a lot of Christians, and I'll use our church, would rather preserve prosperity for their children than preserve fidelity to Christ.
Oof. Yeah.
And the greater goal for my children is that they love and pursue Jesus regardless of what's happening in the culture, not that they're in a culture that allows them to love and pursue Jesus.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to vote for,
right, exactly. It's not like you just throw out caution to the wind, but at the same time, the greater priority.
And historically, the church has not been allowed to flourish the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the countries right now where the Christianity is growing the most, percentage-wise, it's all top 10 persecuted countries, like high persecution countries, where the church is growing the most because something's at stake.
And we like to quote Romans 13 and 1 Timothy 2, but when Paul's writing that, they're under Nero. They're under evil governor or emperor.
Exactly.
He's telling them pray for leaders so the church would flourish.
Yeah, it was not the ideal culture that the church was born into.
Yeah, so I think that's the perspective we need to have here.
Yeah.
We kind of went all around there.
Hey, man.
Is the plane landed?
I guess so. Maybe. Thanks, Harrison.
Was it a crash landing?
Maybe so. I mean, I was just thinking too. This is the middle school Justin coming out. What an unfortunate last name, Harrison Butker.
I was actually going to say
kicker.
a joke because we segued. Like, don't Google that without safe search on.
Oh, funny, but it's like Harrison Butker. Like, go kick him in the Butker. I mean, that's like because he was a kicker. I just figured that's what an unfortunate last name.
It is.
Middle school was probably. Look at him now. Look at him now.
He's doing great.
Kickers
are kind of weird.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, they have this specialty. I mean, Seth Olson, he shared that at the men's breakfast. He's a church member who was a kicker.
Yes.
He used to talk like it's just this one. You got this narrow lane, and I just
do this.
Kind of figured out I was good at kicking the football. So hey, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, enough about that. So I don't think we have questions.
If so, we forgot.
We forgot them. So if we need more questions, because we are better questions, maybe because we can't remember them, we are going to end today with Mount Rushmore.
You're going to get an email that's like, I submitted a question.
Truly, we forgot. Like,
we're going to find out. This is how ministry works. Like,
that's right.
7 years from now,
yes,
we're going to find out that somebody left the church because they had submitted a question this week, and Justin said that.
Yeah. So please forgive me.
If you want to know
listening.
what pastoring trauma is,
that is
real life.
So true. Well, you said that. Do I remember even saying that?
I know.
No.
And I definitely wasn't even thinking about your question.
No one in mind.
Okay, what
All
now?
Right.
Sorry.
So Mount Rushmore, talking about Harrison, 4 celebrities.
Mr. Butker.
4 celebrities that you admire. Maybe
like
because
inspired you?
Inspirational.
Not like just Michael Jordan. Like there's
there's a reason they've inspired you. Not just to be great, but to do something good.
Okay. I'm going first?
Go first.
Well, since I'm a Gator fan, I've got to start with Danny Werfel.
Your doppelganger.
Who is Danny Werfel.
Oh, Danny. I thought you said, I just was already assuming you were going to say Tim.
He's coming later.
Oh, sorry. Spoiler alert.
Danny Werfel,
yeah.
I was a brand new... No, I wasn't even a Christian yet when he was like at the height of his career and represented Jesus so well. And he's just done so much. He didn't really do great in the NFL, but he's done so much ministry. And he's Fort Walton Beach High School.
Yeah, I know, right here.
I never knew
crazy?
I didn't even know really where that was back then. But I have to be Danny Werfel.
There you go. Well, I'm going to go with Tony Dungy.
Oh,
I just think I was going to go with sports, football. Well, you can just tag on to it. I just think here's someone very high profile coach. It wasn't like he was a coach of he won Super Bowl. He was household name, and he's just really I think at this stage in life, he's still doing sports casting and doing well, but he's really leveraged his life to be outspoken, to really encourage men to be husbands and fathers that God's called them to be. I think even the players who played for him attested to the fact that he was consistent in his integrity and character as a coach, which I think is rare.
Yeah.
I think I'm a huge we're a Georgia Bulldog fans, and Kirby Smart is a very successful coach. I don't think he's teaching integrity, and obvious. I think, but the way he speaks himself, I'm that's my why I'm it kind of just itches me. But I think Tony Dungy, I'm he's the guy.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go.
He's
to
a man.
Tony
He
Dungy.
says he is.
I remember. So growing up, my stepdad was a Bears, Bulls, Cubs fan, so I grew up kind of liking those teams. And I remember when the Bears played the Colts in the Super Bowl, I was cheering for the Bears. And then after the Colts won, the former manager of the Colts, owner of the Colts, and Dungy spoke, and I just was so God glorifying, and I was like, all right. He should have won.
Okay.
And he's done so much for adoption.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
even through his heartache, he's written about that. And I know people who know him well.
Yeah.
And they just speak highly of his integrity. Remember when he was almost canceled for saying something?
I know. You're just come on, folks.
Dude,
let's
Tony
just stop.
Dungy?
Yeah,
Come on, man.
Just turn in your cancel stamp.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Oh, man, you're salty today. I love
it's
it.
Lack of sleep.
Turn in your cancel stamp.
Just come on.
Okay, all right.
If anybody gets a cancel stamp, it's me. No, I'm just
Okay,
kidding.
next.
Okay, I'm changing sports, and I'm a Braves fan. We are Braves fans in our household, and
Knew it was coming.
Matt Olson is their current first baseman. And a little controversy when not controversy, but everybody was when Freddie Freeman left, he was the All-American face of Braves. And everybody was listening, but Matt Olson is just a great guy. And I was reading an article about a mom who has a son with autism and how she led some organization in the community, and they were reached out to by Matt Olson's, agent, and who wanted to do something for autism awareness. And this is in the back of my mind, I thought, oh great, here's another celebrity just trying to showboat, and so she met with him, and what she found is that he actually took a whole day like spent time, asked incredible questions, like, and then took initiative to lead the Braves to make like sensory rooms at the Braves Stadium and to help provide a sensory friendly baseball experience for families with autism. And I just thought, what a way to use what a way.
I like it.
It's like sleep too. To just leverage your influence for something that, and there's no PR about this. He didn't release a statement. He's just a good guy.
Yeah. I'm sticking with football. And I'm going to go with the obvious one, Tim Tebow. Again, as a Gator fan, but man, I mean, night to shine.
Yeah.
And I know other organizations have done things like that and do things like that and probably don't get the same recognition. But I mean, he's leveraged. He's really leveraged his influence to help people.
I mean, and really through the foundation he started with his money, I'm sure people give to it now.
Right.
But I mean, I think he didn't just like say this is a great idea, or it wasn't an organization that he just got behind.
Yeah.
He like skin in the game.
Yeah, and you think about like he did some immature things, I think, as like a 21-year-old.
Wow, how dare he?
Platform.
How dare he?
So like just handled himself a little immaturely, like a baby, but like and I really criticized his second book, when he talked about his failures like in the NFL. I'm like, that's not a trial. But I just think he's really been faithful, pointed Jesus, integrity, all that stuff. So yeah.
All right. So this next one is just kind of came to me randomly, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going with it. But I was thinking about celebrities' influence. We, as a family, have been a fan of the show The Middle, and it has an actress in there. It's just a funny family show. Patricia Heaton, she was the mom, and Everybody Loves Raymond. And so I started following her on Twitter just because I thought this is funny. And she is incredibly outspoken about her faith, which was kind of surprising. Like, she's Catholic, but she just is incredibly outspoken about, which in Hollywood I feel like is really rare. And she wasn't like, she was like a lead actress in one of the most successful sitcoms, and then went on to other shows. And
My parents loved that show.
Everyone Loves Raymond. I can't. It actually stresses me out because of the relationship between they have with in-laws. I'm like, I can't watch this. It's just The Middle is hysterical. But I just appreciate someone who's sincere in their
Malcolm
faith.
in the Middle, same thing? Or
no,
different?
it's different.
Oh,
It's a completely different show. It's just funny. It's about
not.
raising teenage.
It just has the word middle in
that's
it.
That's right. It is. It's about the middle. It's in the middle of this town in the middle of Indiana, which is the middle of America, and they're super middle. They're super middle class.
Okay.
It's just really funny, and it's because it's the kids are older elementary and middle school and high school throughout the series. So it's just this stage of life. It's funny. Anyway, I just respect someone who's outspoken and consistent in being outspoken about their faith.
I'm going to throw two more.
Oh.
Is that okay?
Go.
Really quick. Mark Rick. I didn't think of him before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Man, just faithfulness, integrity, humility. Bobby Bowden led him to Jesus,
Yeah.
And then my last one was going to be Derek Carr, because, quarterback really lives humbly for as much money as he had. I don't know if you remember this, but when he, at the time, got the largest NFL deal ever, and probably shouldn't have, he was like, they were like, what are you going to do with all this? It was like $250 million. What are you going to do with all this money? And he said, first, I'm going to tithe.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to buy my wife a really nice ring. And then we're going to do a lot of good to help people
sweet.
with this money.
Sweet.
And I think he's lived really humbly. And, you don't think about these dudes who him and Kirk Cousins, they've disappointed a lot of people by not winning, right? But they're dudes in the NFL under a lot of pressure and trying to lead their family. They're younger than us usually. They are younger than us. Besides Brady wasn't, but Brady's your age, right?
I have no idea how.
Anyway.
Probably ish.
He is not an inspirational character.
No, he's not, man. Not at all.
Okay.
Sadly.
Anyway.
Just think about it, if he was. That'd be awesome.
I didn't watch all the roasts, but I heard that he came out and said he shouldn't have done that because his kids could see it. So
absolutely.
I do appreciate that.
Well,
yeah. Okay, last one.
All right.
I said 4.
That's right. So this is so I'm going with someone who is his whole career and platform has been in Christian ministry, but I'm going to go with Stephen Curtis Chapman. One, because he was a pioneer of Christian music. That's right. I am.
You've always been in the rules, middle child.
That's what I do. But here's what I say about him. He this dude, he was like the
Justin
pioneer. He would just saddle up your horses, guys. Like he, some of you who listen to his music when you were younger know that reference. He just,
I don't.
He was the trailblazer of contemporary Christian music. Could have hung up his hat and just been done, but then he started, Show
I'm
Hope.
diving in. Is
That's
that
right.
him?
That's
okay,
Good job.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be real. There's a ton of money in Christian music, and that's not talked about. But these guys in CCM, they can make a ton, and I'm sure he's made a ton of money. But he has really
No,
poured
they all do it just for Jesus.
Yeah, right. And a lot of them don't have character and integrity.
That's true.
And
That's
the way
sad.
that it is very sad. But it's a platform, and it's a way. I mean, a lot of people who are now famous artists, like secular artists, got their start in Christian music because they felt like it was an easier market to break into. Katy Perry,
have heard of
Jessica
that.
Simpson, all started as Christian artists. But faithful family man, faithful to his wife, and then started Show Hope, which has poured out millions of dollars in grants to help families with adoption and trauma-informed care. And they're doing they haven't stopped, and it continues to grow and continues to grow. And I just think like he's got to be in his mid-60s now. He's still like making like music that's good.
wow.
And but I just think like he's just somebody who's he could have easily just been like, hey, I'm awesome. He just is model humility. And I just appreciate that. So
That is
good
awesome.
job, Stephen Curtis Chapman.
Yeah, for real. He sang that song, I Will Be Here, right? Is that him?
Yeah,
That was someone sang that at our wedding.
Oh, there you go. And you were like, I will be here. And you were just gazing into her eyes.
I was.
And just
I was.
like, oh man.
I was like, I can't wait till tonight. I will be here.
Yeah, that's right. I will be here. There's a bunch of I think I sang that in a wedding too. I can't remember all the lyrics. Anyway, hey, well there you go. It's Boggy. You're like turning red.
I know. I should
That's
have
really
said
funny.
that. Christy doesn't listen to this anyway, but
She's gonna be like,
somebody's going to bring that
If
up
she
to
were
me.
here, she would be like, oh, like she would like.
She's
literally,
so used to it. She's so used to it.
She just cracks up. She just rolls with it.
She doesn't crack up. She's
Like-
just used to it. She's just like,
Whatever.
Okay,
This is my
she's just
life,
expecting-
guys. This is my
seriously.
life.
Pray for her.
All right.
We're recording this on her birthday. You
Oh,
know, so,
happy
yeah.
birthday. Hope that, I don't know what you're doing, but I hope it's great.
Going to dinner.
She deserves
Hanging
something
out.
great.
Yeah.
Did she have to arrange the babysitter?
I came up with the idea, and then our babysitter couldn't do it.
Oh,
and
okay,
so
gotcha.
then I was
Well,
like,
hey,
"Ooh."
listen, I say that because oftentimes that's the case. I'm like, hey, we can do this. Can you just please help and get some? Because she's, better at that, and it's okay. So, all right. I digress. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Boggy Talk. We are so glad you joined in the conversation. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss a beat.